Juggernaut coming at you with a video in a joint. What the? What the? You heard the echo, didn't you? I had to mess that up. I let this thing run in the background. But yeah, I was hearing myself and I was thinking I was going crazy. But yeah, this is a joint venture with Geeking Out in free play mode. You know, my brothers from other mothers. So we're going to get this thing started. So let me run that intro, which keep getting copyright claimed. So this production has been brought to you by the new gaming order, Alexlexus, and I only said that to entertain Shinwar. But yeah, letting that
What?
intro roll, and we're gonna go right into it. All right.
Alex, you gotta raise your camera up. Your forehead is cut off.
No, I want to because I got a knot on my head that I don't want nobody to know about. I
Oh,
got
dang.
I got hurt. So long story short. But with that being said, um, I want to welcome my guest, and uh, Free Play Mode is going to do his intro for his production. But for the sake and intended purposes here, Mr. Geeking Out, what's going on, man?
Yo, fresh back from New York Comic Con. What's going on?
And you know what? This guy got my feet hurting, and I couldn't even go Saturday and Sunday. That's all his fault. Huh?
Huh?
Yeah. That's gonna be a story for another time. Maybe like Comic Con 2022. You know, post analysis stuff. But free play mode, what's going on, man? This has been a long time since we've done something like this. The occasion
Yeah,
calls for it because
yeah. It's a special occasion, one that a lot of people have been waiting for quite a while since this game was announced. So we finally got our hands on it, and we got opinions.
yeah, I will say initially what I was going to say about the game has changed. We all need time with things. We can't jump or panic at the first sign of trouble. It's always good to take some time because I struggled with the game on Friday and halfway into Saturday. And, we will get into that. And there's reasons why because I was playing the game incorrectly. It's not Street Fighter 5. You will get blown up. You can confirm with Vesper Arcade. He was doing a breakdown video on if you try to play the pacing the same way, that drive impact will bust you up. And I got hurt pretty bad. But I wish we had more time with the beta. A lot of folks like out west, they've have extreme amount of intimate time with the game. So they're already developing the tech that we, you know, lucky folks who happen to get to the beta, we're trying to catch up. So hopefully there will be an open beta or a second closed beta for those who are already on, but that's a whole other story. But um, general impressions, I'm going to give the floor to Shinwar first and then Demizo. And then we're going to go into specifics. Hopefully we don't run too long. But Shinwar, what were some
hmm
of your initial impressions? Like, let's start with the presentation of the game in terms of the battle hub.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. A lot of people say it's like PlayStation Home, which I mean, this is not a new concept, but I do like that Capcom obviously implements it. Like it's literally like a game center, or in Japan or over here on an arcade, really just going into the whole esports aspect. I mean, literally from even though we didn't get a chance to do the single player yet, but that just gives us a hint of our creative character, literally just going around and just getting involved in just like extreme battle or going to the DJ booth, just stuff outside of the normal 1v1. And
Hmm.
I think that's just a great thing. Capcom really showed that they're the quote unquote king of fighters, no pun intended. But that they are the king of fighters, and I like the presentation. I was always big on the presentation from the beginning, but just to really get my hands on it, I'm like, wow, it feels different, and there's stuff for the pro player, there's stuff for your casual gamer, and it's just something for everybody.
When to caveat before I give the floor to Demizo on Battle Hub, it felt like for a lot of folks who are playing it for the first time that and went into the battle hub, that we used to do that in real life. We would go to different arcades, and that battle hub was a feel like Electric Circuit. Well, actually, just arcades, old school grassroots arcades was somehow digitalized, and your avatar is getting to live where some of us, like, shout out to Michael Hurdle from our era, shout out to Tough Nerd Toys, that's our era that we got to do in real life. Run around to a different machine, say, hey, you want to play? Boom, let's get it in. That was brilliant how Capcom took what has been done by Arc Systems in the past. Or Dead or Alive. You've seen different online lobbies set up in such a way where it's literally a virtual arcade, and I think that they really hit the nailed it with that one. You know, but free play mode. I'm gonna give you the floor before my dog ruins the stream. Yeah, I'm about to.
I thought it was a very great presentation. Like the look of it reminded me of like the I don't know if you guys are Fantasy Star Online 2 players, but it looked a lot like that
Yeah.
central hub area. Um, and I thought it was overall a very, very good lobby system. The visual representation of the arcade machines and like everything was like well done. Like it was extremely polished for such a beta. One thing I did love was like the ease that you could just hop from server to server. Like you could switch from your console specific servers to your cross platform servers without much fuss. It was just literally like, hey, let me back out into this menu. You tell your friends like, yo, I'm in server like whatever, and they can meet you there. It's not like
Yeah.
you need to do all this rigmarole to get onto the same server with your friends. So I appreciate that streamline of getting to your friends. That's very intuitive of Capcom, and one thing that a lot of fighting game makers could take from Capcom in this instance is the ease to find your friends online without having to go through like 50 million menus.
Guilty Gear Strive. And to add to that, if you look at the lobby of Dragon Ball Fighters, that this is basically Dragon Ball Fighters with steroids, augments, and all of that. Like they really, like you said, you're referencing Fantasy Star Online lobbies. I never, in my heart of hearts, thought that Street Fighter needed this, and now that we've experienced it in the beta, you can't go back. Like this has to be the norm going forward. You know?
I think
Well,
absolutely Street Fighter needed this because of like how Street Fighter 5 was set up. It
Hmm.
was just so it was like the complete opposite. It was just so unintuitive to get with your friends and you had to do a lot to invite people.
Hmm.
And like it was like, hey, now it's just automatically set up. Everything is first to three. First to two. Everything is just right there for you, and it's not like you need to do a bunch like you did with Street Fighter. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Street Fighter Five rather. As
Hmm.
soon as it's like, as soon as you get in the game, it's there. There's very little setup needed.
And you know what? Shinwar made a good point. Capcom is like the king of fighters or the godfather of fighting games because they weren't the first to do it, but they perfected it. And again, other companies, other developers have done similar, but they took this. This is now the new standard. And this is just the beta. This is just the beta, you know?
yeah. So I just want to chime in. So I think that DNF Duel has it. Obviously, Guilty Gear Strive, Dragon Ball. But with this Battle Hub, what Capcom has done, in my opinion, they gave you more stuff to do
Hmm.
as opposed to just walking around, finding, trying to look for a match. Obviously, that's the core of it.
Hmm.
But you can do old school games. You
Hmm.
can do your extreme battle. You can obviously, when you win matches, and you accrue currency
Hmm.
to trick out your avatar even more with some drip. So
Hmm.
it's just a lot of stuff, and then people going around doing special moves in the thing. So it's just great. It's a good experience.
Yeah. Now,
But
I do want to add something for, I think Capcom. it should be easier for those using the arcade stick to navigate the battle hub. I do know that there's a preset in there where it'll auto follow, like or auto, like let's say your
Yeah,
avatar.
camera assist where the camera's locked behind you.
Now, what I tried that, and for some reason, maybe it didn't save or something because I was using my universal stick, and
Hmm.
it wasn't doing that. I had to use my controller and kind of go between two. So maybe it was a bug on my end, but that's just something that should be addressed
It
because
worked
Well, no,
on
I mean I tested it. It worked just fine.
mm,
yeah, it worked
To be
on
honest with
PC
you,
just fine too.
I do prefer, like, I'm just glad that you can have your arcade stick and use your controller. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty much at the same
Simultaneously.
thank you, simultaneously at the same time. Which I was just like, for like, I'm thinking when the game comes out for single player,
mm,
I'll just be using my controller, and then when I get into a fight, I can literally just my joystick's already plugged in, and then
mm,
just start using that.
right, right,
So
right,
they got a little something for everybody, I think.
Like
yeah,
one thing I do think Capcom needs to do is in addition to the hub area is to have a ranked area and a casual area because
Mhm.
like how they have like just the straight up battle hub matches where you can just go down and sit at an arcade machine. They need to have that for ranked and casual instead of having it be like a on off toggle within a menu.
yeah, I
That
agree.
that would just make it perfect.
Yeah, yeah, I think like they virtualized everything in terms of like the casual battles, right? But like, yeah, a section because I think that they have an overabundance of the arcade
Mhm.
machines. They can allocate a couple that are, hey, you want to go to rank, go over there, physically go over there. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something like that. I think would be cool, and to see people crowd around the machines, that would bring that old school arcade feel to, the hey, you know what, you're going for championships, this, that, and the third. I think that would have been brilliant. Maybe the game is a couple months out. I don't know how far or how deep they're in, but maybe this is just a proof of concept, and it's gonna be even better by the time the game comes out. You know.
One thing I did notice too, when you're at an arcade station, you notice there's screenshots and not actual gameplay of the person's match.
Hmm. Yeah.
So when they
Yeah.
did the trailer, it made it seem like you'll be able to, like you said, crowd around the arcade cabinet
Hmm.
and see the match in play. But I'm like, the fidelity in that, I think it's a little too much. So they just did screenshots, which
Yeah.
is
You can
It might have
um
been over ambitious because remember, if you're streaming to all those little screens,
yeah,
like it might have jeopardize the stability or
yeah.
the
you can
smoothness.
still spectate though. You can still go into like spectate mode and watch whoever is at
But
that
that you can't
arcade
see it
station.
as the avatar, like
Yeah, as the
Right, right,
avatar
yeah.
right.
looking up. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I did see, and I think I was talking to Shinwar in our sessions, where if there's a big tournament going on and there's a screen where your avatar can go and sit, and it'll lock onto that like theater screen at the end of the battle hub, and you can actually watch tournaments in play.
Another game did that though. Was that DOA that did that?
I think Dragon Ball Fighters does that.
No, no, no. On the big screen where you have the big screen. PlayStation Home did it. They
Yeah, yeah,
did it
yeah. I
with
know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, there was another title. Oh my gosh,
you can sit there as your avatar and watch it on the big screen, and if you hit the button, it'll go like in full screen mode.
it
I
had to
forgot
be. I
which
think
game
it
did
was
that.
one of the DOA online games. I think I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. I know what you're talking about. But um, so for the sake of time, we're gonna move on. But that was just the Battle Hub. Bravo! It's not a unique idea, but they refined it. If is that safe to say that
Hmm.
they're perfecting the formula, just like with fighting games. Like they didn't invent fighting games, but they perfected it.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, moving on to aside from presentations, let's talk about graphics, music, just overall aesthetics. I will say that this game looks phenomenal,
Yeah.
phenomenal. Like I think Shinwar and I debate about what looks better between Killer Instinct Enhanced versus Mortal Kombat, and those games are both beautiful games in their own right. But for the first time, a Street Fighter game is now in that conversation for visual fidelity. Like when you look
True.
at when you look at Ryu and the striations in the muscles, Ken with the strands of hair flowing, you know, like even when you're like on a Guile stage where you actually see the wind blowing on the clothes of the characters. Even when they're like, what Ryu's doing his Dinjin install, you actually see like invisible waves of energy. And it's like, wow, I never expected that from a Street Fighter game, which in nature usually has a cartoony presentation when you compare it to Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, and Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear more anime esque, but that was mind blowing because I had to stop for a second when I see Ryu like bouncing in the stance and Ken bouncing in his stance. I'm like, wow, that's an evolution. The visual fidelity for the first time is in the conversation to be taken seriously and not like Street Fighter V, where you had giant sausage fingers and biceps the size of a character's head. They're
It almost feels like they finally caught up in
yes.
that area.
hmm So
Well,
with Shinwar,
mm.
I want to give Shinwar the floor to continue. Now, your thoughts on the fidelity and the game looks amazing. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think Capcom really hit it out of the park with the RE engine in this.
hmm
I like the way it looks. The music, it's I'm sure they're gonna put the classic themes in there. The Capcom would be fools not to.
hmm
Obviously, you got games like King of Fighters that have their jukebox, and you can put whatever music selection you want on what stage. Which I'm sure that's gonna happen. What I really do like
hmm
is if you're playing someone and they have their preferred stage that they would play on, two people can play on two different stages, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the same stage. And I think that's a wonderful thing because we all know how to train in stages. It's boring.
And
So,
and to add to that,
mhm,
I didn't mean to cut you off. If you ever you notice if you're doing battle lounge in Street Fighter Five or playing Street Fighter Four, if it's usually the winner's picking the stage. So if you end up
yeah.
losing, have no control over the stage. It'll be on that same stage over and over and over and over, or you're at the mercy of the winner. This was smart. My concern with that, though, if they are gonna bring back stage interactions, if you're on two different stages, how would that work?
Well, so Guile's stage, the Air Force stage, there is a box that can be smashed,
Okay.
and I don't. It's just a background item. So I remember I threw somebody into it, smashed the box. So I don't think that's a problem. I don't
Well,
think it's a
but
problem.
how about not saying going like DOA where they have multiple layers of stages or like
I don't think
Street
Capcom
yeah,
But
is gonna do that.
Street
Street
Fighter
Fighter
has
Five.
never been that.
No, I know, but I'm talking
Yeah,
about like ending stage transition. Like for instance, Street Fighter Five when you knock somebody into Dawson's elephant and they bounce you in the air. Who's to say if they bring something like that back? We don't know. Maybe they're going away from it, but like
it
yeah,
looks kind of looks like it.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would like to see it back, but the stages are great nonetheless. Um, so I just wanted to give Demizzle a quick, you know,
All right.
graphics.
So, unpopular opinion. I think the graphics look great, animations look great, but it's not the engine I would have chosen for this game. Like, it doesn't. Like, Street Fighter historically has always had kind of a unique flair to it. Like, when you look at a Street Fighter game, there's nothing else that looks like it on the market. Like, it has its own distinct style.
Mhm.
But now it's like, as you said, like it's in line with Mortal Kombat. It's in line with Killer Instinct. That's not what I want from Street Fighter. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not the graphical type of. It's not what I'm. It's like the realism kind of takes away from its uniqueness because it puts it in that category with those other games. Like it doesn't feel like I'm playing a Street Fighter game. It feels like I'm playing another Realm Studios take on a Street Fighter game.
And you know what? I was gonna play devil's advocate, but I also wanted to agree that Shinwar and I were saying that there was some. It felt there was some Mortal Kombat esque. There was something about it that kind of made it feel like MK11 in terms of the look. I'm like, there's a familiarity there. That I get, but as far as like Street
I
Fighter,
disagree. It felt Street Fighter to me. It really did.
and I'm
It,
gonna
it,
I'm gonna lay into that. The reason why it's still Street Fighter because it's still vibrant in color. It's still like realism is there, but yeah, it's popping with a lot of color.
But
And
that's the other thing I wanted to get to. I feel like they're using like the street hip hop style motif to hide, to try and maintain some of that uniqueness,
hmm
because when you play Killer Instinct, when you play Mortal Kombat, there's none of that. When you hit a person, there's very little graphical flair involved in that. So it's
hmm
like we need a what I felt like the producers of Street Fighter were like, since we're going the more realistic route,
hmm
we need a way to distinguish ourselves from those more realistic games like your Mortal Kombat's and your Killer Instincts. So I feel like, hey, let's do like a graffiti thing. So whenever something spectacular happens, we're gonna throw this splash of color at your face, so it feels special, but it feels like more like we're just covering this up to hide the fact that we're going in the more realistic route with our graphics engine.
well, the RE engine, that's what it's for. What did it debut with? Resident Evil or is it Devil May Cry 5?
Devil May
Re-
Cry 5.
Yeah,
Devil May Cry 5 was
the debut
the
of the.
debut,
hmm and
and then it like got refined with Resident Evil Village.
hmm
So
Yeah.
and I'll say this. Um, when you look at Street Fighter 4, when it was the first in-house Capcom, underlining with dimps that went 3D. We're not talking EX plus alpha, but in-house from Capcom, right? Remember when they had the ink splatter and all that? And even in Cross Tekken, they had some of the watercolor aesthetics to it. No matter what, when you go into 3D, you run the risk of when you're pushing the fidelity to take advantage of the hardware. Like, how do you showcase that hardware if you're staying cartoony with it? I
Yeah.
think time has to evolve. They have to say, hey, you know what? We have to show the progression of these characters, and what better way to do it than by finally making you see that they're real people, like close. And like when you look at Ryu and Ken, it's like you can see that those two, out in the street somewhere. You know what I mean? And I think that yeah, they're doing the spray paint, the graffiti, that aesthetic to it. I think that it just like Street Fighter 4 did, we're putting the ink splatter and making it look like 2D watercolor art because it's 3D and because they're pushing realism, they're still trying to keep it grounded, or keep a reminder like, hey, we're still here. This is still Street Fighter. We're just evolving. You know.
yeah, but in Street Fighter 4, it was still a distinctive enough style to the point where it's like, hey, Street Fighter 4 doesn't look like this game over here.
Mhm.
Like, you can still go back and play Street Fighter 4, and there's nothing out there that looks like Street Fighter 4
Mhm.
on the market. Like, Street Fighter 4 has its own unique style, even with
Yeah.
the ink splatter. It's like, yes, if you took away the graffiti aspect and the color aspect from Street Fighter 6, it would like, and you put this in front of like a casual non-player of fighting games, you wouldn't know that was Street Fighter. You're like, oh, that's probably the next Mortal Kombat game, or that's probably the next Killer Instinct game.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
I'll say this though. I mean, they're trying. They can't keep rinsing and repeating. You know what I mean? Like you got to push the bar a little bit, and you know, well, let's see where this goes because obviously you saw that with Street Fighter 5 and 4, they
Hmm.
gave you those filters. Remember, Shin, where they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, so something like that. I'm sure down the line, the accessibility options, especially now with the new consoles, that I'm
Well, it's
pretty.
funny with Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 always looked washed out to me. It looked very bland. I don't know why.
Like
I thought the reverse. I thought they were the four. I think Street Fighter Five had more color than I felt four had. You know?
Really
Yeah.
yeah,
interesting.
I felt five was very colorful. It was a very bright palette.
Yeah.
Like especially with the variety of characters, it wasn't brown and grays and like hyper realism. So
Hmm.
Hmm.
it was like a very colorful game, especially for the wide variety of characters you had in Street Fighter Five. You couldn't get away with muted and subdued colors in that game.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah,
And
like Street Fighter 4 looked very arcadey to me.
Yeah. It did. It did.
To Alex's thing, what he said about filters, you can sort of see the beginning of that when you do a critical art or a level 3 because
Yep. Yep.
when you like it kind of goes to that Street Fighter 4 esque filter for just a little bit
Hmm.
before it like fades back into the RE engine. So
My,
you see it a little bit.
yeah. For instance, like when you do the drive impacts or like Ken super kicks of fury, you see his jacket. It looks like something on a comic book. Or even when you're doing like big I said to Shin when he hit me with the critical art version of the Shin Shoryuken, I'm like that looks like that came out of a comic book, you know, because
Hmm.
it's dramatic. There's flair to it, you know. But I get what Capcom tried to do. Let's see where it goes. All right. So we're gonna move on to sound, which is I don't think we're gonna spend too much time on music, but I will say I was highly against the change of Guile's theme, Ken's theme, Ryu's theme. Like I said, in the words of a certain individual, nostalgia, nostalgia. Listen, a lot of times what people have to understand, you don't want to completely cater. It's like, hey, like for instance, Ryu's theme is initially. I'm just like, this is not Ryu's theme. This is not like the Warriors theme. I was looking for something like a progression from Third Strike. Maybe like you're getting into battle with the drums on the Suzuka Castle or whatever. But having played the beta, the music grew on me. The music grew on me. Like I like Ken's theme, Soul of the Flame. I love it. You know, Ryu's theme, Victor. I'm like that was the music is really good, really really
Yeah,
good.
I mean, it's no different than Alpha 3. They changed it up, even with the Street Fighter 3 series. And that's what I say, Capcom would be fools not to put in their classic themes.
Yeah.
And or even when you look at like CVS 2, some of it has that jazzy, groovy feel. It's just good that they switched it up. But like I said, they would be foolish not to put the classic themes in, and give you options of putting that
Hmm.
on the stages that you like.
Now I will say that if I confirm, if you listen to Chun Li's theme, a part of the chords of her original song is in there, but the rest of the song is new. I think that the approach to Chun Li's theme should have been taken with everybody. Like, yeah, okay, you don't want to give us, the same song and dance, fine. Do an arranged version where, like,
No, to do something new though. Like you're always gonna have the classic thing, but do
huh?
something new. And that's what they did. They're showing you they're taking liberties, like just a complete overall. But they're still gonna put the what we've come to know and love in it.
Yeah, I
Just
get
my
that.
two
I,
thoughts.
I, I get
What?
that because SNK and Dave can confirm this. Like, remember in SNK themes, you have remixes and then it'll get to
Yeah.
like KLF 99. Now it's a whole different thing. But,
This is
having. Yeah, go ahead.
this is something that I think Capcom it's a mixed bag for me because I love lo-fi hip hop, and this is what this is like. The music feels like it's lo-fi hip hop in its nature,
Hmm.
but like it doesn't feel like it fits the characters. Like SNK does a very good job of creating music to fit the personality of the character.
I agree 1000%. I
Bandai Namco, like in Tekken, excellent music that fits the character and the stage. Like it fits the tone of the game and the character, what they're going for. Like this is like Street Fighter Six's music. I would listen to it all day, every day on my phone.
It's
It's
good.
great. It's
Yeah.
great music, but it's not music I want to listen to while I'm trying to whip somebody's ass. It doesn't get you in that mood. It doesn't like drive home. It doesn't like get your blood boiling. It doesn't get you into the flow of the game. It's almost uh Capcom versus Marvel 2-ish in its nature.
Or like Shinwar said, CVS too. Like this is true love making. You know, I mean, I get it, but
Right.
I did want to interject real quick. One thing that Harada-san does really well when they compose themes for the characters, the music is also telling their story. So when you have Jin Kazama's theme, you got a guy that's conflicted. You know, self-loathing because of the devil gene and so on and so forth. So his theme kind of is going through that, you know. So I just think, yeah, initially it was jarring, but it will grow on you. You got to give it a chance. That's my thing. Like Gao's theme, I'm just like, how can you go away from Gao's theme goes with everything? And come
Hey,
on.
so sometimes you gotta switch it up.
Like I will say this though, like getting off the music, I love the sound effects, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
love them. Like
I
I think they're great. I think they're hard hitting. They make everything feel impactful. Like even when you do like counter hits, it's like solid. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like you feel that. And if you plan on a controller, like I did for a few matches, it the rumble effect with the sound just it works like that. They nailed that like
I
100%.
And I'm gonna say, me and Shinwar were playing some matches, and when you get hit with that drive impact, you grimace. You're like, ooh, like you feel. It's like
yeah.
it's not like Street Fighter Five where it was like somebody had a bag of coins and they're like hitting it against a tree, like boom, 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 when you're blocking. Like these sound like organic sound effects. Like you're literally hitting somebody, smacking, like and they're blocking and whatnot. Like they really did awesome with that. So Shin, do you want to add anything to the music before we move on to the next?
No, no, no.
All
I'm good.
all right. So again, I don't want to make it too long, but I guess in summary, we're gonna look at like the gameplay and cast, right? Um, you know, SNK is always good at evolving their characters, with their looks, and they take chances. Like Kyo Kusanagi, like I was like, man, I liked his original look, the high school look, but then he grew up, now he's a biker and so on and so forth. Then you got Iori, so that's just an example. This for the first time, especially with Ryu, because they're very adamant about keeping Ryu's iconic look. You had Zangief that in Street Fighter V they should have changed his look. And I'm pretty sure the look that we're going to get is what could have been in Street Fighter V. But the story goes, Ryu, that bearded look, was supposed to be what he looked like after training to defeat Nikali. But they're like, no, no, we don't know how the fans are gonna react to it. And now, having seen Ryu, seeing Ken, seeing Chun Li, like the way they look now, and then I look back at their prior iterations, I can't go back. It's like, yeah, I love what they did. They showed progression, like time. You know, Guile, he's out of regulations. I don't know if he's still in.
He been out of regulation. Come on.
Yeah, this dude's.
Yeah, but now you're just more blatant with it with the facial hair. That's a
He
that's
don't
a,
care.
it's a Article 32, sir.
Yeah, it's like dressing appearance. For our military folks. All three of us went through the military, so that's why I'm like, guys, out of regs, he out of pocket with that. But um, yeah, I really like for the returning characters. They showed that they wrapped up their arcs. Chun Li has finished her chase after Bison. Ryu has dealt with his inner demons. Guile has I guess seen the revenge, or Nash avenged for the most part. And I'm glad that now it's okay to take a chance. But Shen, what are your thoughts on the characters' looks overall in terms of like the returning?
For the returning characters, I like it. Like I said, it's just time to do something new. We know they're gonna put their classic costumes in there. But it's like King of Fighters. You had to update your character, and if we're really one thing I noticed that Capcom is doing is really just tweaking characters based on story. They're starting to get a little bit more involved in their own lore.
Hmm.
So I think that's good. You just see obviously Ken doesn't have the traditional gi on, but he finally has, even though it kind of had it in Street Fighter Five and even
Hmm.
Street Fighter Four. Just different clothes. We were like, well, hey, they can't wear their gis all the time.
Right,
And
right.
obviously there were limitations with sprites, but now that everything's 3D animated, they can have these liberties.
Hmm.
But yeah, just the overall look for the characters, I like them. It's just something new, something different, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing costumes, alternative outfits
Hmm.
that these characters are gonna get.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Before I give the floor to free play mode, I know those of you who made your created character avatars, you probably ruined it. But this is what my request, like what Soul Calibur and Tekken has, did, where you are able to do like accessories, even like KI did it to a degree. But imagine if you were able to put your own clothes onto the Street Fighters. I think
Oh,
Maximilian said something like they gave the players too much power. Some of the ridiculousness you saw with their
yeah,
avatars,
they're going
like,
crazy, yo.
yeah, yeah. One guy, it was just a big face with hands, like Mr. Potato Head walking
yeah.
around, like, oh my god, here we go. But but
I guess they wanted the wackiness, though. I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
freedom of expression, I think that works. So,
I'm not mad at it. It's not offensive. So.
hmm. All right. So, fast forwarding gameplay. Um, I will
Oh, I
say,
gotta. I
yeah.
didn't talk about the characters. I
Oh
thought they
yeah, yeah.
were
My
good.
fault. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I thought they were good. Capcom got a lot of explaining to do with Ken though.
Why? How
Cause
so?
cause if you think about it, out of all the characters that have been introduced in Street Fighter, Ken has never really had like an actual character arc.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been like, oh, I'm just fight. Like Ryu has always been fighting inner demons. Like Ken has just kind of been there. He's been
The sidekick.
not even a sidekick. He's like a
Back.
secondary protagonist that they don't do anything with. He's like, what the fuck
Hmm.
is her name in Naruto? Sakura.
Who?
He's fucking Sakura from Naruto before
What?
Shippuden.
Look, I think that you know what you're right, absolutely right. Like,
Like so,
Ken.
yeah. Like I'm I'm interested to see what they do with Ken because it sounds like for the first time in forever that he's going to have an actual character arc and an actual substantial story. Besides, oh, I'm the former U.S. world champion and I'm a rich dude who does fucking karate in his spare time.
I say this. It's gonna make Ken a more interesting character. Like, I think he was unrelatable to a kid that was born into wealth and has money and didn't have a struggle. Seemingly
Hmm.
perfect life and so on and so forth. Ryu is always like, chasing something. Guile was chasing something. So I think for Ken, chasing the information to clear his name is gonna make you root for him a little more. You know.
But you know what's funny? Did you read some of the win quotes with Ken against the other characters?
Yeah, I know
I
Chun
have.
Li. I know Chun Li said something to him about a certain place that we are gonna find out about in the game.
It was, well, something happened in, I guess, the I don't know if it's fictional, obviously, Nashal. But something Ken says to Chun Li was like, I pretty much don't need your help. So Ken is like just going all rogue to do what he needs to do to, uncover whatever's going on. But it's like he's almost pushing away those, his old allies.
Hmm.
Just so he can, unless he doesn't want them to get hurt or if he just wanted to do it on his own. But as he needs some character development, and now we're starting to see, what's going on with him.
That's good because look, that worked wonders for Dragon Ball with Vegeta. Initially he was just a villain in the Saiyan saga, and then now he's one of the most revered characters for the fact that you saw him start from one place and end up in another. And you seeing Vegeta, try to redeem himself, have a family, and so on and so forth, trying to chase Goku. I think what was relatable with Vegeta, which is now going to be applied to Ken, is he was chasing something. He was trying to be better than Kakarot. He was trying to, and then in doing that, like trying to get stronger, like he found things to fight for, a family and whatnot. So I think in Ken's case, that
Well, actually, Ken, that was actually, I don't want to say it was an arc, but they did visit that. Was like,
hmm
well, Ken obviously had always had Eliza, but then even with Mel, he fights to protect his family.
hmm
But now it's like, well, what do you do when you disrupt his life? And
hmm
now it's like, Ken's on the run or whatever the case may be. So
hmm
I honestly, I think that somebody made a good point. I don't know how true it is. It could just be a rumor, just internet rumor. But
hmm
that character JP,
yeah.
just his attire alone, he looks very wealthy. He's a psycho power user, very established. And
hmm
somebody was like, what if he's one of those people or whatever that, is disrupting Ken's life for whatever reason?
hmm
And so, not to say that Ken's character arc is going to be the Street Fighter 6 story, but, there's definitely something going on. And if Capcom was smart, they would definitely make it a bigger plot to the overall story.
hmm
I I actually would have rather the rumor to be true, like they actually did kill his family, because that would have
What?
made a more compelling
That'd be a little too
story.
much, though, Dave. That'd be too
You,
much.
you
I
you're going Kevin.
mean,
You're going Masters of the Universe Netflix. The stakes are high.
I would
Like,
have,
what's going
yeah,
on?
I would have rather, like, yo, like he's had this perfect life for like the majority of the series. Now let's see what he does when he's stripped down to nothingness. Like everything that was important to him is gone. So
hmm
Well,
I would
hold
have
on. You know
liked
what,
to see
Dave? Wait,
that.
wait. I wouldn't say kill him. I would say do something like Splinter Cell, Conviction, where whoever's behind this, they faked Mel's and Elias' death to get to Ken, and then you find out whenever at the end that they're still alive. That killing them is too much, man. The heck?
This is why you two don't write for Capcom. What?
What?
Well, I should write for Capcom. They need to hire me.
What? Hire or fire? Hold on. What's going
Hire.
on, Blazing? Thank you for checking out the podcast. It's long overdue. But I did want to also shed some light on some of the newer characters, like Luke, Jamie, Kimberly. There's hinting that Kimberly could be potentially connected to either Balrog, Dudley, or DJ. I'm leaning towards more Balrog because she's
Yeah.
referenced as African American, and Balrog is African American or boxer.
Well, not even that though. Even her win quote against Ken was like she wants information about her uncle, and Ken pretty much is like, you don't want to go down this rabbit hole. So it's like, well, wait a minute, who's our uncle? You
And
know?
that's implying something bad, you know.
Yeah, right, right. I
So
agree.
that's why I'm leaning towards her being connected to Balrog or Boxer. Then you got Jamie, who okay. While I have you guys on the show, let's clear this up. Is Jamie connected to Yun and Yang?
Cousin.
He's their cousin.
Yes.
Well, so I think that was early, but I don't think he's their cousin. Hold on, let me. So if let me see something. Let me go to the website really quick. Hold on.
Yeah, because
Characters.
it
Hold on.
looks like he looks up to Yun and Yang, right? So by this the timeline of this game, Yun and Yang should be older, right?
So wait. So actually, no, not necessarily. Because well, this is after SF3. We
Yeah.
don't know how much farther into the future after SF3. But Jamie's profile says this self-styled Chinatown peacekeeper aspires to the example set by Yun and Yang, the twin dragons. An
hmm
expert dancer, Jamie places justice and friendship above all else, defending his town with martial skill. So I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think he's related to them. It just says he aspires, but it could be. He could be, their
Or
cousin or whatever the case
they
may be.
may just know each other, like Gen and
Yeah,
Chun Li to Yun and Yang, Yun and Yang to
yeah,
Jamie.
yeah, yeah.
So that could be it. Um, And Blazing said that would be a reason why Ed is back in the game. I thought they said he was their student. Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, I did see that too. But those leaks came out just like we were talking about Ken. Somebody pretty much made up that leak about Ken's family and all that, like getting
Hmm.
a divorce, and it turned out it wasn't true.
It's like, why would you wish that on a beloved character? It's like, oh, he also said it seems like Ken is getting framed just like Mad Gear framed Cody. Wait, it was Mad Gear that framed Cody? I thought Cody just didn't stop fighting after Final Fight One, and then he was just getting into street fights and then got arrested.
It was him. It was a combination of both
Okay,
because I think in one of the Final Fight games, he was framed by the Magyar gang, but then in I think Street Fighter 4, they explained like, well, he just never stopped fighting, and Hagar had no choice but to throw him in jail.
dang, and then Jessica left him too. Come on,
Yeah.
but Mayor Cody should get Jessica back. You know what? I vote for Cody, even though Cody was hard to fight in Street Fighter Five, and they changed him completely. Bring Cody back. It's Metro City for crying out loud. But
Wow.
I'm
but
sure they're gonna bring Cody back in some aspect, not as a fighter, but like they're gonna maybe like in the world tour mode, he's gonna have some prominent role. I can see that.
well, if they use Final Fight Streetwise as canon, maybe they can use Kyle, his younger brother, as the new, because now you got Kimberly, which is the guy replacement. Maybe you could get the
No,
next generation Final Fight.
no, we don't talk about Final Fight
I
Streetwise.
know, I know, I know. That they tried to
What are you talking about, Alex? I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
Wow.
moving on. But I will say with Jamie's character, when you see him like his movements, whoever did the mocap for him, bravo. He looked like a dancer. Like if you do the light kick and he just walk around like doing like Michael Jackson, like jiggling his foot. I'm like, wow. Attention to detail is.
You know what I find funny about Jamie though?
Mhm.
It's like whoever came up with his mechanics were like, I love Nikali's mechanics, but I hate Nikali as a character.
Yeah, I guess that was their way of bringing a character with a transformation style back.
Right.
And this is the first time a Street Fighter game has had drunken kung fu as a usable art. Where
Yeah.
I remember Jury was the first Taekwondo practitioner in the Street Fighter universe. Well, SNK was long before, leagues ahead of them with that, with introducing various art, martial art styles. You know, but yeah, in general, like to wrap up the character piece, who was your favorite? Like, who stood out in this beta to you? I'll start with Shinwar.
Oh shoot. Ken Ryu Kimberly. Guy
Oh,
was pretty cool too.
I know. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna say
What?
nothing. That's gonna be for offline. I know we know why people love Manat and Kimberly. But continue.
I like Kimberly because of her gameplay. But go
No. Very progressive
ahead.
of you.
What?
No comment. No
But
comment.
I would I would have to say like of the characters that I played, Ken obviously because I'm a Ken diehard since Street Fighter 2. Um, I played a little bit of Guile, which is rare for me because I don't like playing charge characters, but Guile felt very good to play. I like playing them, so I'll play some more of them when the game comes out. And I also like playing a little bit of Kimberly. Not the biggest Bushin style fighter character person, but I thought it was a unique spin on the Bushin style.
Yeah, they modernized it for the most part, so I thought it was cool. All right, and then before we move on to the next topic, I will say between Kimberly and Jamie, they were the coolest in terms of their style, their presentation.
Hmm.
I'm a Ryu diehard, Chun Li diehard, but those two, like they had such personality. This RE engine gives Capcom the ability to really express, like they talk about how Kimberly was like a track star or cheerleader or something, and you can see that in her movements. You can see that like when you do the taunt and she's doing like the track run in place, and when you see her like even like her jumps, like they really captured the essence of a character in the sense that hey, this is what she is, and you can see it. You can see it. They don't just tell you it's like, hey, the movement's Jamie. He's believable as a dancing kung fu, drunken kung fu style fighter. So those two really, they hit the mark with those two.
I believe those two characters are indicative of the style that they're going for. Like they were built with the hip hop theme in mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I'm not talking rap because people who are younger just think hip hop and rap are synonymous with each other,
yeah.
and they're not. Hip hop is the overall dress, the way you talk, the way you dress, the your graffiti, your dancing,
Hmm.
and the music. They represent the dancing and the graffiti aspect of hip hop.
Right, right. So wait a minute, hold on. Blazing said Final Fight Revenge said it, but the game is non-canon. Hagar retired and made Cody the mayor. I was stuck with Luke, so Luke was for now till the main game comes out. All right. I was just trying to make sure that the chat I keep engaged in here. So all right, moving on to the meat and potatoes of this gameplay.
Oh yeah.
Gameplay. Um, Initially, I had some complaints. Me and Shinwar, like, mutually had, because we were fighting each other, fighting other people, and whatnot. Um, it it feels different. The pace feels very different. The gravity of the characters feels very different. Um, like I said earlier in the show, do not come into this game thinking that you're gonna take Street Fighter Five and throw it in there and pick up the mechanics. That's how I got my behind beat. I'm telling you, don't do it. Come into this game like it's a new game, relearn. Empty your cup and fill your fluid because if you come in like, oh, I got this, you're gonna get beat up. And I learned the hard way on Friday. I'm like, man, my confidence was shot and everything. I'm like, what is going on? And when I finally started doing like what if you look at Dragon Ball, like Whis is like stop thinking, like, and then Goku was able to ascend to new heights. It was kind of too late though. Like I played till they cut off the beta. You have to just come into it with all these new mechanics. It's layered. It's layered. You come in with these new mechanics and just embrace them. I will say that this game does force you to make many decisions. It's I prefer that because I was a big Guilty Gear fan where you had so many systems in place where you can have a player that favors one mechanic over the other, so on and so forth. But however, the difference with Street Fighter 6 is it's like if you do go to the well one too many times, that drive impact is going to get you. If you're going like another example is this: if you like to drive impact enough and your opponent it's 25, 24, or 25 frames and with 3 hits of armor, and if they're hitting peppering you with drive impact, you can hit them with your own drive impact. It's like it's so many different things now.
Hold
You
on,
got
guys. Keep going.
yeah, you got perfect parry. Like you have so many tools to get out of many situations, which I complained about with Kimberly being a little bit too fast and the mix up in the corner. Once she gets you there, she's literally like, "Where you hiding them jewels?" And running your pockets. Like literally, there was a fight with Kimberly, I literally was guessing. I'm like, okay, she's gonna either do this, she's gonna do that, and it's like, what do you do there? You know, I think that maybe, and I put that in the survey. If you guys who played the beta got the survey in your email, answer. Hopefully Capcom will address a couple things because the game was great, not perfect, but it's damn near close. Um, yeah, initially inputs felt very like for instance low medium like let's say you're doing low medium kick with Ryu and Ken into Fireball. I struggled at first. It's just it felt different, you know. as I got used to the pace of the game, then I was like, okay, now it's starting to come out. So there is an adjustment curve there that you need to really be prepared for.
Mhm.
And just in general. Since Shinwar's handling something, but Demizzle
I'm
just.
back.
Oh, okay. So I was talking about. Remember how it felt a bit rigid or very tight. Do
Hmm.
you want to elaborate on the gameplay?
I like the gameplay. My concern was that it would be floaty like SF5,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. It felt weighty. And I will admit, it did take a little bit getting used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of my so gameplay wise is great. I enjoy it. I like it. But something I noticed, and I don't know if the Mizu noticed it. I know you did.
Mm-hmm.
There were times when like I know I'm doing fireball, and I never had this issue in SF4, SF5. But then an uppercut comes out, and I'm like, wait a minute. I was like,
Yeah.
I know I did the motion for a Hadouken,
There's a
but
lot of negative edge in Street Fighter Six.
yeah, but I'm like, is it registering? Yeah, and I'm like, I'm going back to neutral because I know
Mm-hmm.
there's times when it'll read the input as a DP motion
Mm-hmm.
if I'm tapping forward, but I'm going back to neutral and doing the Hadouken, and still an uppercut comes out, and I'm like, wait a minute. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a little daunting. I don't know if if they'll look into that, but
I got blown
gameplay
up
wise,
too, like that. Like I went for I was trying to interrupt Kimberly coming in, and then the super
hmm
came out, Ken's Shinwar, and then I'm like, that's not what I wanted. And it was on the stream. I was like, that's not what I wanted. Like, why did that come out? So.
yeah, but I mean, just and I'm a big component on this drive rush system. Street Fighter always, in general, always had short combos, which was nothing wrong. But moving on with the times, they were like, hey, we have to open this up. And I just think the drive rush is it a little bit too costly at 3? I guess so. Whatever, and if you do it out of a parry, it's 1.
Mhm.
But I just like the combo extension and just the combo ability of just doing some new combos instead of doing, just your 1-2 or going into like a 3-frame link and just giving you like 3 hits. Some stuff on YouTube already, and I was already testing with Ryu. Is like, wow, this is crazy, and this is what the jolt I think Street Fighter needed.
Yeah, before I turn the floor over to Demizo, I would say Ryu right now has some of the most damaging combos I've seen. Man, shout out to Dead Apes BS, man. He hit me with like some combos where I was just like, what? What? Man, that was just like at a point where I had to just put the controller down, like that the bouncing off the wall, and he was getting them. He was getting them, like extending those combos. But I think that if they didn't put a cost to the meter, somebody can keep hitting you with that combo free, and then okay,
Yeah,
now you're in burnout. That gives the other person like, hey, you know what? You're going to the well a little too much there. You know what I mean? And I think Capcom recognized this, and I knew they were going to add something like that in the future of Street Fighter. And here we go. Um, and on that note, I want to give Demizzle the floor because I know that he was not a fan of the or the drive gauge being tied to so many things. But I think that it may help because you have to be more conscious about your decisions. If you're sitting there like me, I like to counter if I feel pressured. But then at the same time, I do 3 of them, then I'm already in burnout. So you got to think about these things before you go ham. But Demizzle, your thoughts on gameplay?
All right, so this is gonna be a like when I first started up the game, made my character, sat down at a machine, got blown up 5-0 out the gate because I tried to play it like Street Fighter 5. I was like, God damn. And I just turned it on like fuck this shit. Came back an hour later, I was like, okay, let me calm it down and like as you said, like, okay, I can't come into this like with the Street Fighter 5 mentality. And I'll admit that I won a lot more than I lost because I took it as a brand new game and I learned some stuff and I played a little bit smarter than I normally am used to playing.
Yeah.
Like, so this game will stress like you utilizing your normals a lot. Like it'll stress like you being smarter with your normals. It'll stress you knowing your spacing with your normals because your normals essentially you set up everything off your normals in this game.
Mhm.
So, well, not everything, but the vast majority of things.
Mhm.
As for the drive meter, I'm not a fan. As you said, I'm not a fan of like virtually every offensive and defensive system being tied to a single meter. I think it would have been a smarter thing if Capcom split it up into two separate meters. Like you have your offensive meter where your drive impact, your EX moves, and your focus attack
Mhm.
drive rush be tied to that meter.
Yeah.
And then you have your defensive meter, which would be your parries, your alpha counter, and what else is there for defense? And your guard meter. That would have been the better scenario in my opinion. But to your point, it's going to force a lot of people to play kind of. You can't play to one extreme and you can't play to another extreme. You got to play here.
And that's what I was telling everybody. This game is going to force you to fight. The one thing I will say that they should have a negative penalty, like Guilty Gear, for those turtles that like to hang in the back and run away. You know what I mean? Like, I think that what was it? Your drive gauge will build up if you're, active, if you're doing stuff. But if you're hanging back, it's not going to build as quickly. But I think they should go a step further and like, hey, you can't be like for instance, Kimberly. If you get her or she happens to find herself in burnout, all she has to do is run away or walk backwards and do that little, hip hop walk or whatnot. I think I get what you're saying. Separate them, but then at the same time, it forces decision making. A lot of things that people are comfortable with doing, it's not going to be the case anymore. I think I saw one of Maximilian's videos talking about earlier today, where it's just like, how come Taquito's not doing this anymore? That because you're worried about that drive impact coming.
Yeah,
Now.
and that's gonna be a major thing because like focus attacking in Street Fighter 4, a lot of things played off of that. You're gonna have to bait out the drive impact because it's gonna be such a crucial system because it's like, okay, I got this person in the corner and I know what they can do to get out of it and they know what I can do to further capitalize
Hmm.
on the corner. So it's now a little bit more of a meta cat and mouse games. Like, do I? Because you can't raw drive impact because that everybody sees that coming now. Because
Hmm.
like everybody caught on to that like after the first few hours.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, okay, I gotta bait it out. I gotta make him do the stupid thing. I gotta make him make the unsmart move in order to get out of this corner.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's gonna be like, okay, and if you're in a corner, it's going to be like, okay, how do I get out of this corner? How much damage do I want to take to get out of this corner? Or do I fight while in this corner now that I have the ability to do so? Because I still have super that's not tied to my
Yeah.
EX meter. So that's a viable option to fight out of the corner.
Right.
So there's I wouldn't say more options, there's just different options.
Right, right. And you made a good point. Like, the corner is dangerous in this game. It's literally you can lose a set real quick if you find yourself in the corner. Like I've made some mistakes where I had someone in the corner and I went to throw and I'm thinking I'm trying to throw them back into the corner, but it took them out. And I'm like,
Well,
okay, I lost my advantage there. So that
Yeah, the corner is very dangerous in both
yeah.
directions. It's dangerous if you're in the corner because there's so much things that can open you up while you're in that corner, but there's also danger when you're the aggressor because you kind of get too overconfident
and you get
and
hit with a drive impact.
you don't realize the person in the corner also has a lot more options than they previously had
Hmm.
in other games.
I will say that the perfect parry, I maybe if they open the window just a little bit, because I know some people who are abusing drive impact, because there's videos floating around that, oh, drive impact is too strong. Like if they open the gate for perfect parry just
But
a
you
little
can.
bit, yeah, you
Mhm.
can
But
perfect parry that drive impact. If they're
yeah, I
like,
mean, I think there's options to deal with drive impact, and that was one of my concerns. I was like, well, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, I was watching Wong, I was watching Vesper. They literally would do normals that were cancelable. So when their opponent does a drive impact, they pretty much do a normal that's cancelable into a drive impact to counter it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
oh,
So
okay.
as opposed to being doing it first, they're always reactionary
Hmm.
to a person's drive impact, and obviously it takes one bar. But
Hmm.
it's like, hey, that's what they're doing to counter it. And then I've seen, like you said, Alex parrying.
Hmm.
That's another option.
Yeah.
So it's the meta's gonna get really crazy with that.
Yeah, it's literally like gonna become like Taekwondo, ITF, like you're like trying to feint somebody out. It's literally Street Fighter has become a real fight in terms of the mechanics. You got to worry about your stamina. You got to worry about the unpredictable situation you could find yourself in. Like when I used to wrestle and do martial arts for points, like what I felt on the mat is what I felt playing Street Fighter. Like you have to be cautious of any and everything. Like they really brought realism and real life choices into the game. So this is advanced, chess level 20.
Like,
Now that you got that. I see
two
Blazing.
things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, God.
No,
Two
no,
things.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was reading Blazing's comment, but go ahead.
Two things I wish like that are realistic changes that Capcom would make because I know they're not gonna ditch their whole system of the drive meter. Like they do need to fix the parrying. Like the perfect parry needs to. You shouldn't have to drive cancel out of it in order to get a move off because I feel like once you do a perfect parry and a person is that close, you should be able to just immediately follow up with a punish.
Yeah,
And the
that
other,
didn't always happen. Like I was fighting Shinwar and that happened. I'm like, what? I'm like,
yeah, same thing. Like I was fighting Shinwar, I perfect parried him, and I did the Shaw Repa, and he was able to block it. I'm like, that should have punished. That should have been
mm,
my punish.
hmm.
Um, the other thing is like, I'm not a fan. Like, fix this immediately. I don't like how you can just hold down parry and just parry like a lightning legs fully, or like EX moves, you just like hold this down like oh bing bing, and it's
It
just
does look
like
kind of dope though. It does look kind
it
of dope.
looks dope, but it is so mind-boggling. It's like so frustrating because like I have a video up where I like parry EX lightning legs full thing, and I'm like I know that worked out for me, but that should not have worked out for me.
Well, I'll say this. The parry does have its drawbacks. Like I found that once you're in stance, like the perfect parry, like Shinwar was throwing fireballs at me. I was trying to do it like Street Fighter Five, which was my mistake. Uh, but it's like if you don't have the timing down, especially when the fireball is charged up and it's coming at you real quick, you're like, oh crap, and you're trying to get to it. Again, that window for perfect parry is very small, and then when you to do the regular parry, you have to get into stance and come out of stance, and then to break that, you have to drive rush. So it's like again, it's all about decisions. It's all about decisions. So yeah, without beating the dead horse in general, right? In terms of the gameplay, I think that it's a definite advancement from Street Fighter Five. It's simplified yet more complicated, if that makes sense. Because when you had the V system, like everybody had something unique and different to them. They were trying to go the Killer Instinct route, which is not Capcom. That shouldn't be something Capcom does. Don't copy people. Trend set. You know. Um, with that said, I think that for the first time since Street Fighter 4, I have passion to refine and get good at fighters again. I think Capcom just in general did a brilliant job with this. And I guess in closing, Shinwar, overall, everything.
Mhm.
Your thoughts on just everything that the beta weekend. Uh, you know, the game impressions.
Um, I'm excited. I know they're going to do another beta. Obviously, they're going to open it up to a lot more people, if not everybody. Um, I think either that next time they announce that beta, they'll release the release date, or no later than what is it? The Game Show Awards in December. They'll release the date. But yeah, I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for it, and I want to see more characters get revealed. These 8 were cool, but I just want to, I want to see the full roster. Hopefully they start dropping more trailers again.
Hmm.
Um, and I will say, obviously, maybe not Capcom's fault with the whole beta code fiasco.
You know
Um,
what?
a certain individual or individuals were able to acquire multiple beta codes. We're not going to go into that. But yeah, so I'm excited for it, man. I can't wait.
All right. Demizzle, in closing, overall final comments.
I'll freely admit that I went into this not terribly excited for Street Fighter 6.
And now you're like,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
nah, I'm more like I'll give this a chance. Like I'm interested, not excited. Like I'm interested to see more characters, like Shinwar said. I'm interested to see more refinement of what was already shown. Um, will this be my main fighter? Probably not. I love King of Fighters 15 right now. But I will give it a shot.
And remember what I was telling you in the Discord? It's like we haven't played it yet. Let's give it a chance.
There are things that I saw from initial videos that I was afraid were true and are true.
Hmm.
And having played them for myself, I'm not a fan of them. Like the multiple systems tied to a meter. But there was enough positive there to pique my interest. Not excite me, but pique my interest.
Now, inevitably, we do know that balance patches will happen, system patches will happen. Maybe a new mechanic will be thrown in there. Gone is V shift, like like a defensive mechanic, so to speak. But let's see where this game goes. It's a game as a service, pretty much. Um, my one concern is that the future of fighting games are all tied to servers, and you need to be online all the time to really get the best out of the experience. I hope that there's some sort of offline experience so that you don't have to, God forbid, in the next year and a half or 2 years I'm still in the military, that if I'm somewhere, I could bring my Xbox if I'm out in the field, in one of the chews or the tents, and I just want to fire up my Xbox. I want to know I can still play it. You know,
Well, you can still play. It just if there's any server issues, it's just online that's affected, not single player experience.
true,
I mean,
true.
like your versus offline, but obviously the day and age that we live in is you just fire it up and play online. But
But
that's why Capcom is putting this single player experience because they know they're like, hey, we got to do more than just your regular 1v1, endless battle rank.
Hmm.
like
So
this is something that I believe that Capcom and other fighting game makers need to do is that they need to add the ability to like join privately hosted servers like for whenever they do take the game whenever official support stops.
hmm
There
Yeah, 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 yeah.
like how like again, going back to Fantasy Star Online, like how you were able to jump on a privately hosted Fantasy Star Online server when Sega stopped supporting those games back in the day until they relaunched with Fantasy Star Online 2.
Hmm.
You were still able to, if you knew of what private servers were available, you could go to a privately hosted server and still play those games. I think Microsoft needs to do that with Killer Instinct. Bandai Namco needs to do that with its games. Capcom needs to do that with Street Fighter. SNK needs to do that with King of Fighters.
Like set up a
And
P2P or something, Yeah, I get
like
what you're saying though.
say you own like a server blade and like, hey, I love Street Fighter 5 so much, but they're about to take those services offline. You as the owner of Street Fighter 5 can go to Capcom and be like, hey, I want to put up a private server. I want to pay like X amount of money to do this as a one-time deal. They should allow that.
You know what? Put it in the survey. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So, now, Blazing, we answered that question earlier. So when we put this on YouTube, you'll be able to see that part where we're talking about, it looking either too cartoony or anime-ish or real life looking. So I would say, when the archive goes up, you'll get to check that out. Oh yeah, yeah, and Dave, to your point, like what happened with Jump Force, Shinwar was like Jump Force, and then look what they did.
I enjoyed that game actually.
Yeah, I know you did. They were like, you know what, Jump Force, you better sit down. What? Hmm.
Well,
But with that being said, those of you who were tuning in live in the chat, I thank y'all very much. That's something where, like, the next video I'm looking into is doing Street Fighter lore and predictions for, where we can see where the characters, what they have been doing between Street Fighter 5 to 6. Obviously Third Strike in the mix of this, but what led them to where they are. Just talking about lore. Usually those something like that conversation can run for like an hour, 2 hours or so. And I know Shinwar will definitely like to be a part of that as the Mizzle.
huh?
But what?
What?
He always tripped me up with that. I started that, and he took. That's my
Right.
line. That's
What?
that's my line. But yeah, that's gonna be fun. I have the preset, to do anything all Street Fighter 6 up until launch. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But closing remarks, you can do a plug, a shout out, to your website. So to Mr. Geeking Out, how can they find you? Hook up with you. You got the floor.
Oh yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Shinwar. I just start putting up Street Fighter 6 beta matches. Got a whole bunch of video to go through. So that and we had New York Comic Con this weekend, which I made some points about that it not being the same like it was in previous years, but nonetheless, that's where you can catch me at. And catch me on Instagram at geekingout_official.
They catch you outside?
Don't catch me outside.
Well, Capcom, you did Comic Con a disservice by not bringing
Yeah,
Street Fighter 6 to that. That's kind of was a killjoy. Part of why
yeah.
Saturday and Sunday wasn't in the cards, but we'll leave it at that.
But it was at TwitchCon. But
And closing remarks, Mr. Free Play Mode.
You can catch me on YouTube, Free Play Mode, all one word. I also have Street Fighter 6 beta footage. Got a nice long set in with my man Shinwar up there in glorious 4K. Caught him in 4K. Um,
For what?
4K?
Oh, I thought you said something else. Go ahead.
wow.
4K?
Port K. Well, that's not what I was alluding to, but I'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Got a dirty mind, Alex. But
Who was?
yeah, yeah. I'll be also uploading gameplay footage on that channel as well as a more in-depth uh opinions on what I thought of the stream because there are people out there who don't agree with my take, but I feel the need to elaborate even further on my take.
All right, all right. With that being said, make sure y'all rate, comment, and subscribe. This has been New Gaming Order, Geeking Out, and Free Play Mode coming together to share our thoughts and feedback. Please leave your comments below. Um, and with that, we're going to be signing off. I want to thank y'all for watching, and make sure you check out my peeps. Make sure you support them. And I want to give a shout out to Blazing and the rest of the crew that was watching this live. Thank y'all very much. Love y'all very much. And we're outie. Peace.